Libra, hi, come on in. It's great to see you. I'm looking forward to doing your Libra November 2009 reading. Before I start, I will mention that I have uploaded your Libra 2020 yearly reading, and you can find it in the playlist section of my channel, or just search Nigel Libra 2020 and that will take you to the video. But in any event, today I'm going to use the Thoth Tarot deck. You've probably seen this thing behind. A lot of people are scared of this Thoth deck for some reason. I don't know why. The imagery on the cards is beautiful. It was painted by a woman called Lady Frida Harris in England, and it took her a long time to do it, and she did a great job on it. She should have got a Nobel Prize for art. There is sadly no such thing. But in any event, let's get things underway, shall we? Little bit of practical magic. Now let's see what's going to jump out. I'll use this pen to point out some of the interesting esoteric imagery that might be in the cards, depending on what you get, and if it's appropriate, and if I think it's appropriate to the meaning. So we'll see what there is to say. There is the Queen of Swords for you. The Queen of Swords, Libra. Get a lot of you in that Queen of Swords. Oh, well, they didn't jump out, they fell out. I'm taking them all at one time. What's this one here? This is the Emperor. Yep, the Queen of Swords and the Emperor. Let's see what else there might be. This looks like it's coming out. There is the Star card. What a gorgeous card. Basically, I don't see a bad side to the Star card. This is what? That's the Knight of Wands. Well. Starting to get a few ideas coming up already, but I'm not going to give it away. It's interesting how the colours have balanced, particularly for you, Libra. A lot of balance in this month for you. Oh, well, that makes sense, I guess, doesn't it? I'll take that one off the top just because it's... And there's Adjustment, which is a great card for you, Libra, because it's got you all over it. So why don't you come and sit down next to me, have a look at the art on these cards while I do your reading for you. Okay, Libra, here we go. Now, let me just reach behind and get this deck of cards, which I'll put down here. Now, I'm not going to use them, of course. Rather, as is one of my shamanistic practices, I'm just going to this is a new deck, so I'm just going to let it sit here and learn and watch to have the spirit infused in it. Let's have a look first at this Queen of Swords, shall we? Well, what does she have to say for you? The Queen of Swords. Well, esoterically, queens are water and swords are air. So we have the watery part of air. And so is it a surprise then that we see her throne is actually that of a cloud? Because that's certainly water and air, isn't it? Here we have the woman. She has a sarong on, I suppose, which means... I think that she's pretty relaxed. I think she's someone who's very relaxed and is going with the flow, and I think that is an attribute that is going to be attributed to you this month. She is bare-breasted, which demonstrates to me that she is somebody who opens herself. That is, there's nothing, she's quite open to other people about sides of her character and what it is that she's thinking. Her crown is that of, well, it's a number of diamonds or crystals, I suppose, which shows great intellect. Great intellect, and isn't that the case with you? This child, this cherub's head, which is poking up above her crown, signifies to me that there is here the importance of looking at things afresh and looking at things anew. This sword that is here is one that is saying that she is going to cut through to the core of a matter. She's going to cut through quite intellectually, I think, because this is about fine intellect. And this severed head here is saying that she's cutting through things in a way that is, well, how can I put it? Cutting through old ways of thinking about things, old patterns, looking at things afresh, as that cherub was indicating, and saying to herself, look, I'm going to have a different view as to how I go about solving some of these issues that are going on in my life. And you'll be successful as a result of that. Now, of course, court cards can be both male and female. Now, what is important about this is I am getting a lot of Libra out of this. So this is very much you during this period. And it may also be another Libra that you know, or it could also be a Virgo. And I think that this is all about you making clear decisions based on fact and fairness, similar to, I think, the way this Queen of Swords goes about things herself. Now, if it is someone else, it could also be you. It is a woman who is, I think, very perceptive, a keen observer, a subtle interpreter, intense individualist, and confident and gracious, I think, during this period. People like her can acquire intense love and devotion from the most unexpected quarters. So don't be surprised if you do have people declaring or acting in a way which shows great love towards you or goodwill towards you. I think there's also within you at this time, the ability to compromise. I think you're going to be a very good counselor. People, I think, will be coming to you and saying, look, what do you think I should do about this? Or this has happened, and listening to people and giving them some advice. The shadow side of her is that she doesn't share her wealth or her riches with other people, I think. And she can sometimes, I think, I'm just getting the impression, now I'm not saying it's you, but it might be something for you to just bear in mind, that she can kind of wallow in her isolation sometimes, in a sort of an intellectual isolation, and not share her insights with others. So she needs to, and I think you need to remember that you do need to participate in the world. Because there is this great quality of separation around her, I think. The intellect separates things, doesn't it? And people. And so it can bring about a sort of an isolation. I'm getting the feeling of someone who's wounded by past hurts here. Wounded by past hurts. Look, I think I'm getting Virgo and Libra very much associated with it. I think you must use your intellect to make an unbiased decision about a situation. Compassion and empathy may distract you, so you must go with your head and not with your heart. It's not a time to beat around the bush about a situation. What you need to do is you need to decide, and you need to act and cut through old patterns and masks, and have the courage of your convictions. I'd have this thought in mind, and it is, my only duty in life is to remain true to myself. And isn't that the case? Now, let's have a look at this card underneath it, which is, well, it's almost like the opposite to that queen that we looked at. Here we have the Knight of Wands. Now, knights esoterically are fire, and wands, of course, are fire, and so we have the fiery part of fire. Now, the reason why I'm getting, who am I getting here? I'm getting Scorpio around this. I'm getting Sagittarius around it. Why is that the case? Well, fire sign, I suppose, for Sagittarius, but I'm also looking at this. Let me just point this out. This knight, his helmet is fitted at the top. Well, he's wearing a black helmet, and black esoterically is a color associated with Mars. And in esoteric astrology, Mars is the ruler of Scorpio. Not Pluto, but Mars. And certainly in classical astrology, Mars also is the ruler of Scorpio. So I'm getting a lot of Scorpio, a lot of Sagittarius around here. I see the knight's wand is being coming from the groin, and so it's quite a phallic symbol, I think. So there's sexuality associated with it, and you can make what you want of these flames that are erupting from the end of this phallic wand. The horse is black again, so I'm getting that Scorpio around it. And it's someone who doesn't really look like he's in control of the horse. It's rushing forward, lots of fire, but the wind, as you can see, is blowing in this direction, so the wind is behind him, and he's got the wind in his sails, if you like, so he's well placed to move forward. I think this is someone who's got a lot of activity associated with them, generosity, certainly someone who I think can be quite impetuous, really, quite proud, swift, but in a really an unpredictable sort of way. The courses of action that they take are kind of unpredictable, and a great fierceness associated with it. Certainly, I think this person is someone who is energetic and ambitious, adventurous, determined, charming and magnetic, a charming and magnetic personality, I think. Someone that really is kind of, well, I have to say it, hard to resist. And someone who is could well be someone who has an entrepreneurial spirit, somebody who, even if they're not pursuing entrepreneurship, someone who's actually very good at ideas. Very much getting that about them. I think what this is saying to you is there could well be startling or revolutionary qualities contained in the events around you during this period. Something very unusual going on is what this card is saying, but you should remain cool and collected and resolute and energetic, and just be careful of the actions you take, nothing that hasn't been well thought out, but go forward with an alert confidence in your ability. Yeah. This guy, I've got to say that whatever his great qualities are, he's really sort of ill-fitted to carry on his action. He doesn't really have means of modifying his action according to circumstances. It's like he comes in, and it's a Sagittarius thing. It's like the arrow is shot. He shoots forward, and once he's gone along a certain path, that's it. He can't waver to adapt. It's like a bang, just moving forward really quickly in that direction. I think let your hair down, give yourself a pep talk, and believe that you can do it. It could mean that there is swift and strong action necessary to be taken, I think, what this card is saying. But isn't that also what we were talking about when this card came? And this is sitting underneath it, so these things are not coincidental, are they? Why don't we have a look at the card that's in the middle here, the star. Now, here we go, the star card. Well, there's not really anything bad that I can say about the star. It is major arcana, so obviously it's here for an important reason for you. Let's have a look at some of the imagery that's in it and see what we can find out. Here is the person, a familiar female figure with very long hair curling all the way down. She has a gold cup which is pouring the spirit down. This gold cup is a masculine symbol, and it can refer to God the Father. Now, personally, I hate talking about God the Father and God the Son, because I think it just leaves females with the result that they have to worship a male God. And of course, God is not male or female. God is both male and female, and neither at the same time. But anyway, we'll go along with the imagery of it. This silver cup down here represents the feminine principle, and what's interesting about here is that the material coming from this cup is coming out in a straight line, whereas everything else in this card is really all spiral. This is suggesting to me that the energy that comes from
the divinity, by the time it gets into matter, starts to become diluted. These things down here are geometric shapes which are not found in the spiritual realm. These butterflies here refer to, how many of them are there? 4 or 5. They refer to souls who have been freed from matter and from mind. Here are 1, 2, 3 roses which are associated with the planet of Venus and which represent love. In fact, Venus is here. This is the star of Venus. And the reason why I know that is because it's got 7 points on it, and esoterically, 7 is associated with the planet of Venus. That's the Star of Babylon. There's nothing of any great interest to say about that. Now, this figure here can often be mistaken for the Earth itself, but of course it's not. It's the entire universe, this figure here. This is the entire universe. And it is sitting on a sea from which everything else came. And we may say, well, how can there be a sea from which everything else came? Well, because I suppose that's about the level of where our theological mindset has got to at this stage of human development, because we haven't come up with anything better. All the traditions refer to a primordial sea in a way, whether they be the Middle Eastern or Far Eastern or Western things. In fact, even the first chapter and verse of the Hebrew Bible or Christian Old Testament, called Genesis, chapter 1, verse 1 says, "When God began to create heaven and earth, the earth being unformed and void, with darkness over the surface of the deep, and a wind from God sweeping over the water. God said, 'Let there be light,' and there was light." So there's very much that interest, I suppose, in the aquatic background of creation, and that is just all over the world. It's just the way it is. Is it right? Well, it's, as I say, it's about as far as we've got so far. Now, I call her the daughter of the firmament. Astrologically, it's Saturn ruling Aquarius with Neptune exalted. Why do I get that? Well, Aquarius is all about the individual and uniqueness, and yet it has an overall humanitarian outlook, I think, doesn't it? Well, the star shares these qualities in that it is trying to remind you about the divinity and uniqueness within you, while encouraging you to be a conduit for bringing down your highest potential. Yeah. I think what we can also say about it is that it's possible that, look, you need to remember that I'm just sometimes getting the thought here of self-confidence and esteem. Don't ever say, "I can't." Say, "I'm having trouble, but I'm not finished yet." And don't, even though other people may chain your body, they can never chain your thoughts. They can't chain your mind. So remember that your thoughts and your mind are yours. But don't ever be held hostage to other people's points of view. In fact, say to yourself, "I am a radiant light being. I am a star that walks upon a bigger star. I see what can be of benefit to people in the future." I think this is a time when you are going to be fulfilled and inspired by life, and it's a reminder for you to follow your dreams and those which give you the most inspiration and happiness, and be open to love and trust creation and what it brings. And I think that the encouragement is also being given to you now that, yes, I think you've had some testing times in the past, but now is the time to move forward with renewed hope and live an inspired life that you can express yourself fully. Have hope. Hope. Wonder. These are great things. Now, I'm going to move to this card because it's kind of connected with this imagery that we were just talking about. And this is, of course, the card of adjustment. Now, I think what's important about the Major Arcana number 8 here, adjustment, is that, well, the first thing is I love the number 8 because it's about balance. It's about, it's about power. It's about decision in particular. It's about decision. And if I'm asking myself, well, what can I get from this imagery here? Well, I'm looking at the woman herself. It's a woman's figure, no doubt. And she's holding, and well, look, I'm going to, don't take offense, but there's a lot of sexuality in the tarot, and that's because sexuality is such an important part of life for us here on Earth. Now, she's holding this sword, which is obviously a phallic symbol, between her legs. Now, the gay and lesbian community can make the necessary adjustment, please. But this is about fertility, it's about creation, it's about growth. These colors here, this blue and this green, and blue and the green and the green and the blue, these things here, these are colors esoterically which connect to the to the planet of Venus. Venus being about love and beauty and balance, because Venus is your planet, isn't it? Here we have your scales. And here we have, I don't know if you can make it out, the letter A, which is alpha, and the symbol, the Greek letter being omega, or omega. So the alpha and omega, the beginning, the end, and the cycling around all the time. Now this area here, these are like diamonds at the top here, and this is a curtain of diamonds which she's come through. And so that yellow background there shows that she's come through this curtain, which has been made by diamonds. And the diamonds represent the hymen on the female. So the hymen has been broken, and so it's open for creation. And I'm getting these black chains here. That's a color which is associated for me, in this context, with the planet of Saturn. So I have Venus ruling Libra with Saturn exalted. Now, I think that this emphasizes that the energy of this card is all about balance and equilibrium. There's a lot of karmic cause and effect, I think, going on here, bringing a situation into balance. This Hebrew letter that's down here is called Lamed, which means, what do they mean? It's a stick or a goad that you poke cattle with to get them to move in a certain area. And so that implies, I think, that perhaps there is, in a sense, there's fate moving you through in a certain way, which is for your good during this period. It's almost like you're being driven forward by fate towards certain things which are for your higher good. So this is, I think, saying also that because the cattle are kind of restricted by that stick which is poking them, I think that this card is also implying for you, this month anyway, because these cards say different things to me at different times, but this is saying to me that really this is about self-control for you. It's about a time where you're going to be exercising self-control. That is, that you're not going to be flying off the handle when people do things, but you're going to go with the flow with things. You're going to have a sort of a relaxed approach to things, just like the sarong that this Queen of Swords is wearing. She's relaxed. It's almost like she's on holiday at a tropical location, and wouldn't that be great? I think that what we're getting here is that, following your true will is what I'm getting, which is kind of like aligning to your life's calling, really. You looking to work out what the best possible expression of who you can be. This can also, as I say, occur karmically when circumstances kind of move along which are outside of your control. I think it's, well, what I'm getting is that even if I wander from you, you are there. Your pleasure ever leads me into the depths of you. Your chastening hand is the caress of reclaiming me. I walk through the alley of hell in the byways of my deeds, and the stifling heat is the clasp of your embrace, of the holding me tight unto you. Yeah, I'd have this thought in mind, and it is, I am balanced and centered. I honor my word. I value being truthful in difficult situations. The abundance of beauty and nature is a reflection of my own nature. Think clearly about life ahead of you, and be aware that all actions have consequences, and all thoughts have consequences as well. And I think that you will be getting a clear vision of the possibilities that are ahead of you, and applying your insights so as to have a balanced life. That takes us then to this character, the Emperor. Now, what is going on here? What has the Emperor got to say for you? The Emperor, number 4. Well, 4 is really about structural security. It's about power. It's about stability. It is associated, for me, with the planet of Jupiter, which is about expansion. And to be honest, it's actually just about straight good luck. I have, in this card, I have Aries ruled by Mars with the Sun exalted. Now you might say, why is that the case? Well, I see 2 rams here, which are the signs of Aries. This king is holding a scepter, which is getting the light from this direction. This is much lighter, and it's more dark over there, through there. Here are 2 glyphs of the sun, which are coming up, and the sun is exalted. What's also interesting about it is, like I say, that number 4 that's there, you may not be able to see it, but his jewels in his crown have got 4 segments to them. And if you look at his legs, they also kind of make the number 4, don't they? And what we have down here lying at his feet is a lamb. Well, in the Hebrew Bible, the Old Testament section of it, that was all about sacrifice, wasn't it, to God? And lambs were usually used to sacrifice. Even when we get to the Christian scriptures known as the New Testament, one of the Christian scriptures, is the Gospel according to John, I think it's called, where that author, or authors, because we don't know who wrote it, referred to the Jesus character as the Lamb of God. And what is also interesting about that gospel is, and to promote that religious imagery of Jesus being the Lamb of God, the other 3 gospels, Mark, Matthew, and Luke, they had the Jesus figure being executed by the Romans the day after the Passover meal. So there was the day of preparation for the Passover, then there was the Passover meal, and then the next day, those Gospels, which are called the Synoptic Gospels, because synoptic means like similar or like each other, they had him executed after that meal. In the Gospel of John, they had the Jesus figure executed the day before that Passover meal, which is kind of nice theologically, because that would have been the day on which all the lambs were being slaughtered for that Passover meal, which was to occur that night. And so that's sort of like that Lamb of God thing for me. Now, here we have something where we have you really being quite active, a builder, a doer, pioneer, visionary. I think you'll be primarily controlled with power and control over other people or yourself. So I'm getting that issue of self-control coming here again, because this guy's very much into power. I think that you'll be a natural leader and organizer. I think people will see you as being that. And your willpower and judgment are going to be exercised in a really good manner, and that's as a result of your prior life's experiences And I think that you're going to have success at what you do through discipline, because this guy is very much about discipline and application. I think status is going to be quite important to you during this month. I think it is. And actually, I think you'll be doing things which go to improve your material security and stability. Interestingly, even though we were talking about, there's going to be a temptation for you to be volatile. This was talking about balance and self-control, but there's a temptation here for you to be fiery and not at all passive. Well, to exercise self-control doesn't mean to say that you have to be passive. It just means to say that you're going to just exercise some self-control. Take me, O husband, draw me up unto you, O monarch of my soul. Yeah, I think that this is about order, structure, ambition, taking a stand about things. I think that you're going to be very active. Examine yourself critically, and especially in regard to your relations with subordinates and people that you report to at work. And just say this to yourself also during this period, and it is, I enjoy initiating projects. I value and honor my leadership ability. I am a responsible person. Well, that is the way it is for you this month.
Well, there you go. There is your November 2019 reading. And look, I thought that was fantastic. I really enjoyed doing that. Extremely interesting for me to be able to do that. I love this deck, and I love the messages that were coming through for you. I think that I think you're going to have a great month. Look, the only other thing that remains for me to say is this, that you are a legend, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, bye for now.